instigation of another adult. It's usually the other parent, but I've seen grandparents do it.
Oh, yes.
Foster parents have done it. But you're in a situation where it's most likely the other parent and probably the other parent's relatives who are bankrolling them, supporting them, doing whatever. Okay. That's very clear. You are innocent, okay? All right, you make your normal mistakes as a parent. I make normal mistakes. My son would tell you some of them. That's why he's not here. But in any case, we're not talking. It has to rise to the level of really abusive treatment. I worked in foster care and adoption for 24 years before I went into private practice as a family therapist. I worked with thousands of kids who were truly abused and neglected. They were removed from their homes. And what became cognitive dissonance for me was that none of these kids ever rejected a parent. They were protective of their parent. No, she never burnt me with that cigarette. You know. You know, these are not scars from a cigarette. The dog nipped me, you know, the dog just happened to have had a cigarette. These kids begged for their visits. They begged to go home. Now you're comparing them to a population of kids where all CPS cases are unfounded. And why did they suddenly reject? It didn't make sense. You remember the line from South Pacific? You have to be carefully taught to hate and fear. It's true. But then you throw in, which I put in my book, especially a parent. So, you know, this is so anti-instinctual. So, okay, so you're a normal parent who's made their normal mistakes through trial and error, and no child will reject you when the other parent was normal. Okay? Normal meaning they would not engage in alienation, because this is abnormal behavior. Okay, so now we're comparing it to estrangement. And I'm going to be more technical here because there's primary estrangement and secondary estrangement. Primary estrangement is if both parents are engaging in a process where you're turning the child against the other, but the child is aligning with one of the parents, okay? And the parent has actually, the estranged parent has actually done something that has risen to the level. Now, Steve, you look quizzical. This is Steve. So, oh, good. I'm teaching you something today. Okay. So, what the estranged parent has done rises to the level of abuse. Okay. Now, it must be causally connected to the child's rejection, which means it temporally preceded the rejection. Okay? That's primary estrangement.
Can you repeat that, please?
What point?
The definition of primary estrangement.
Primary estrangement is that both parents have been engaging in behaviors to turn the child against the other parent. The child aligns with one parent. The other parent has done things to the child that really does rise to the level of abuse that would justify a rejection, okay? And it must be causally connected to the child's rejection. In other words, it happened before the rejection, okay? So that the rejection was in a response to the estrangement, okay? The reason this is important is that where secondary estrangement comes in. Secondary estrangement is what happens to most alienated parents. The child has abused you, primary and secondary. Your child has abused you. They've made false allegations against you. They're doing everything in their power to disrespect you. And you're not supposed to be angry? You're not supposed to have a reaction? So you may say and do things that don't rise to the level of abuse, but letting them know you're really angry, and maybe you called them a name once or twice, maybe you did something, okay? That is not alienation, and that is not true primary estrangement. You have to make that distinction because they're going to get you in court for it. We're human. We're going to react to being maltreated by a child. So we're not testifying in court, and I know that you're not perfect, and you're human. And they, well, look what they did. And I said, all right, I understand that. I said, you know what? If my child did that to me, I'd probably have the same reaction. In fact, I bet every therapist in this courtroom would have the same reaction.
And probably have.
And won't admit it.
Exactly.
So it's very, very important to use your terms clearly and to